Hockey as your destination for the latest news, audio, and analysis regarding the Winnipeg Jets, Manitoba Moose, and all things hockey in Manitoba. Join Dave Manu, Ezra Ginsburg, and Drew Mandel as a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show starts now.
Single-handedly, but I mean, if we needed a reminder, Dave, that the Florida Panthers were still one of the best teams in the NHL, we saw that on Saturday night, right? We talked about it a lot with Lisford. By the way, shout out to Liz for stepping in for you boys, who obviously had better things to do than be on the Illegal Curve post-game show. But we talked a lot about how the Florida Panthers were just slowing the Jets down a lot and weren't allowing the Jets to do much offensively. 3 high danger chances, boys. There was 1 high danger chance per period in the game against the Panthers, 3 total. They got to be a lot better than that, Dave, tonight against the defending Cup champs.
Yeah, today at morning skate, which finished about 5 seconds ago, I raced over here as best I could to get over here and get this show started on time. But Scott Arneal was talking about quickness and speed, and that was the kind of the theme that he was takeaway, if you will, is that he really talked. Because Kelly Moore of CGOB asked him, is there a neutral zone? Was it your breakouts? Was that what you wanted? And he goes, no, it was our speed. Because if we're not playing with speed, that's not our game. And he said, he thought Tampa, which is that was my biggest takeaway from the Tampa game. Tampa, 6 days rest, lost 4 straight. You could tell they were ready, and you could tell they were rested and they were ready to go. Similarly, Panthers had lost 2 straight, and they were just faster and more ready than I thought than the Winnipeg Jets. Well, this Winnipeg Jets club has to play with speed. That's the key. That's the hallmark of their game. And if they're not playing that way, they're not going to have success. That's what Scott Arneal said about 20 minutes ago in the Matt Frost Media Center. That's what we took from him. And so, like I said, we'll see if the Jets can get back to that. But that was kind of the theme that we said. We spoke to Josh Morrissey. We spoke to Dylan DeMello. Both of those interviews, all 3 of those interviews, of course, on our YouTube channel, which you can watch after the show.
There you go. Exactly right. But, I was thinking about the last couple games because, of course, this is the first time the Jets have lost 2 games in a row this season. The Thursday game and the Saturday game were so different from my perspective. Thursday, the Jets looked like a tired team, but the structure of their game was sort of similar to what you'd want it to be. They couldn't execute. They didn't execute as well as they could, but at least it looked similar to how their game should look. Saturday night, they were punked. I mean, let's say it, be blunt about it. They got.
I think we're going to have to pay Ashton Kutcher for that.
Well, I mean, maybe we'll see about the royalties associated with that or not. But they got punched in the nose by the defending Stanley Cup champions. That's what happened on Saturday. The Florida Panthers, a team that was a little bit ornery, having lost those 2 straight games to the New Jersey Devils. They said to the Winnipeg Jets, "Okay, nice record. You've done well. Everything else along those lines has been good so far. But you think that you're in our caliber? You think that you are Stanley Cup contenders?"
They just walked by us. We could have asked.
I was about to. Well, I just gave Drew a nudge there because Aaron. I noticed it was Aaron Ekblad. I think that was Sam Bennett. I think there were a few Panthers that literally just walked by.
We could have had them on the show.
Say, Dave, should we ask Ekblad how they slowed the Jets down on Saturday night? But no, I mean, it goes back to what Dave was saying. I mean, it's obvious, right? Like,
when a team loses, especially a team like the Jets, one of the fastest teams in the league, it's easy to point to speed, right? But I think it's also how do you respond if your speed game is not going, right? And we talked to Kevin Sawyer about this a couple of weeks ago on the Saturday morning show. Sometimes when you don't have the speed, then you have to resort to, and Mike Kelly pointed this out, I'm not sure if you guys saw this, dump-ins are up in the NHL, and I think that's a testament to the structure in which a lot of teams play with. I think that shows you that a lot of teams are able to slow you down in the neutral zone. Not every team,
right.
But I think sometimes you have to simplify your game. And I know people don't want to hear that in hockey because what's sexy in hockey, right, guys? It's scoring off of the rush. It's scoring those tic-tac-toe power play goals, right? But sometimes that speed game's not there, and you have to simplify your game. And if you don't have that, then you have to rely on your cycle game. You have to generate offense in other ways, right? And I think that's what we didn't see in the game against the Panthers. Like I said, when you only have 3 high danger chances, you're not doing something right offensively. So obviously that's been the focus. How do we get that speed game back? And guys, obviously there's going to be a last change here at home. The Barkov line absolutely feasted on the Jets. Like if you needed any reminder, and I talked about this with Liz on the postgame show Saturday night. I mean, Barkov, Reinhart, and Evan Rodriguez, whoever they were up against, was a dominant line. Barkov with 3 points, right? So, and obviously you had contributions from others, former Jet Nate Schmidt picking up the second goal. So, I mean, they have to, in times when they don't have their speed game, I just find it funny because it's something that you can just default to say when you lose a game and you look fast, you say, well, we weren't fast. Well, the question is how do you respond to that when you're not generating enough speed to create offense?
To your point, you need something else in your toolbox. I
Right.
mean, you'd love to build this house with just a hammer, but if somebody takes away your hammer, how are you going to build this house? Are you going to take a heavy shoe and start hammering in nails that way? Probably not. At least not in a house I'd want to live in, but that's a separate issue altogether. But that's what the Florida Panthers did so well on Saturday night. They took away what the Jets want to do. The Jets didn't execute the manner in which that they wanted to. Combination of Florida's skill and the Jets just not being at the peak of their game. Now the question to me is, like Mike Tyson used to say, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the nose. How do you respond after you get punched in the nose? You've been bloodied. How do you respond? You get that second opportunity so quickly, like the Jets do. They know that they have that sour taste in their mouth, Dave, from Saturday night. So how do you respond to that sour taste being prevalent? How do you move forward and say, okay, this is what we're going to do to recapture our game, recapture the form that made us the story of the NHL through the first 6 weeks of this season, 7 weeks of the season. And it starts tonight for the Winnipeg Jets as they get that opportunity for redemption against the Florida Panthers.
I think one of the hallmarks of this team is not to get too high and not to get too low.
Very true.
And I think that we've seen that. I mean, we have to remember this team is 15-3. They have 3 losses in 18 games. They're a very good hockey team still. I know that folks, love to celebrate like it's a Stanley Cup championship when you win 8 games in a row or 7 games in a row, which they've now done this season. But, they're also not going to, and again, I'm in the room all the time. I hear these guys talk. There's no difference right now than there is when they're winning games. There's no measurable difference in attitude. And I think that's a testament to the coaching staff. That's what was one of the topics of Saturday's show? Fueled by embarrassment. This season isn't about what they do in the regular season. It is about the process. We heard that from players yesterday after practice. And that's what I suspect we'll be hearing from these guys for the remainder of the season. Scott O'Neill said it in his media availability. You guys aren't going to like the answer, but really that's what this is about. It's not about this is a statement game. We have to defeat the defending Stanley Cup champions. Of course they want to have a better result than they did on Saturday where they lost 5-0, right, Ezzy? But at the same time, this is a team that is focused on something greater. And part of that is making sure their process is right. So that's kind of what they're fixated on right now.
I think there's a lot of an advantage there, though, from the Winnipeg Jets perspective in that defeat on Saturday. You can take that defeat as a learning opportunity. Look, we know who the Florida Panthers are. They're the defending Stanley Cup champions. At their peak, they play like they played on Saturday. That's the Florida Panthers at their absolute best, in my estimation. Aggressive, physically intimidating, forechecking bandits, driving people through the end boards with their forecheck. That's the Panthers at the best. So the Winnipeg Jets see that and say, okay, this is the level we need to get to. If we want to defeat the defending Stanley Cup champions, if we want to be at that level, now you don't have to be at that level, 75 of 82 regular season
It's
games.
not going to happen anyways, even if
course.
you want to. No team can do that.
No, you'd be done before the playoffs begin because you'd just be so exhausted.
Right.
But it's a good reminder and a good refresher for the Winnipeg Jets that this is the level that you need to achieve come April, come mid-April, come the playoffs. This is the bar that is set, and now they've been reminded and they've been told that this is the level you need to play at. This is how you have to find a way to come through what the best of the best are doing to you and find a way to come out on the other side and be successful. So the Jets get that opportunity to sort of rejig their game and rejig their approach against the Stanley Cup champion Panthers later on tonight.
Boys, this is the first adversity the Jets have faced this year. Let's be honest here.
Right.
Like the Jets have not, like you go back to last year, Dave, right? Like talking about, keeping the bigger vision in goal here, in mind, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, last year you had, Rick Bowness had to be with his wife, Judy, right? You had Velarde's injury, you had Connor's injury. That all happened in the first 15 or 20 games of the season, right? So the Jets, obviously you don't want to compare seasons, but this year, let's be honest here, with the exception of the loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs, everything was going right for the Winnipeg Jets, right? With the best start in NHL history and everything like that. And what's interesting and amazing about tonight's game is that you rarely get the second game of a back-to-back like this against an Eastern Conference opponent, right? And we got to talk about all of that bad blood towards the end of the game in Sunrise on Saturday night, right? Like we just had Aaron Ekblad walk by. Maybe we should have asked him why that fight wasn't longer with Mark Scheifele. No, I'm joking, but I mean
his former junior colleague.
Yeah, exactly, right? So what's up, boys? We got some IC fans in the house here at Cityplace Food Court. Shout out to Noah and Kev. But yeah, I mean, you rarely get. It's like a little mini series, right, guys? And that's why I think tonight's game is going to be a lot closer. I don't think. I mean, I'm not going to make any bold predictions because, as you know, Dave, most of the time I'm wrong.
Very wrong.
99% of the time I'm wrong. Some of the time, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, this is going to be, I think, a game in which I would expect it to be a lot closer, a lot tight checking. I think the Jets are going to clean a lot of things up. I think one of the goals to me that probably bothered me the most because it was so un-Jets-like was the second goal. That was the goal where Sam Bennett basically took the puck from his own zone. Gabe Vilardi had a weak back check, and obviously Gabe Vilardi's had a great season. Not picking on him, I'm just saying on that particular goal, there was a Kyle Connor flyby. That was the Nate Schmidt goal, and then Sam Bennett put the puck on net. The rebound goes to Nate Schmidt, and it's 2-0. And you could tell at that point in the game, boys, that it was kind of getting out of control. So there was other examples of just the Jets turning the puck over, or the Jets not losing those battles, not being hard enough on the puck. Evan Rodriguez's goal, that was the third goal. I mean, that was just lack of effort as far as I'm concerned. There was just Barkov and Rodriguez whacking away at the puck. So the Jets have got to be a lot sharper. I think they will be a lot sharper, but I think some of that animosity I think that we saw in the third period. I'm not saying there's going to be 4 fights or anything like that, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that these two teams know that they're both division leaders, right? The Panthers are first in the Atlantic, at least they were last time I checked. So I would expect this one to be a little bit more of a grinder, as Paul Maurice always used to say.
Well, I think to your point, though, as the Winnipeg Jets know that they need to come out and match the Florida Panthers' attitude. The Panthers are a bit of a bully, rightfully so. I mean, when you're the defending Stanley Cup champion and you have the horses you have up front and some of the talent you have on your back end, you can and should be a bit of a bully. So to me, the question is, which of the Winnipeg Jets players responds and kicks dirt back in the face of the bully? Now, to your point, I don't expect that it's all of a sudden going to become bloodshed out on the ice and the 1970s Broad Street Bullies are going to turn around. That's not going to be what happens. But I'm looking for, a member or 2 members of the Winnipeg Jets to early on in this game set the tone, set the response from the Jets. And I think
it sounds like the Lowry line's job.
That's exactly what I was going to say. To me, Adam Lowry is going to be one of the key catalysts if the Winnipeg Jets find success in tonight's game. Now, Lowry, we don't expect that he's going to do it necessarily on the scoreboard in putting up goals and assists because that's not his game. His game is about setting the tone for the Winnipeg Jets. And I would expect that he probably starts the game on home ice tonight for the Jets. And I would say that early on, the first few shifts of the game, you're going to see his line try and, flip the ice. If the Jets are struggling, they need to play in the offensive zone. they're the ones who need to set the tone, and are the ones who need to remind their colleagues and their players that, no, we're a damn good team also, and as a result, we're going to bully back just like we got bullied on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, they're a tone-setting line. That's exactly what they've done all season long. And like I said, I guess the way I'm trying not to get too hyperbolic, because I really don't think that there's that much significance other than you just want to have a better effort. I mean, we heard from Dylan DeMello the way it comes back to this idea of quickness, because that's what they said. That's what all these guys said. They said, look, it's not about like getting to the front of the net and beating the shit out of your opponent. And you can't do that. You get penalties now.
Do we have to put you on a 7-second delay? I'm not sure what the food court etiquette is.
Are we allowed to say that in the
what's the food court etiquette? Come on.
It doesn't help when you focus on it there, boys. But
I know. I got to throw you under the bus. You know how we work here on a legal curve.
Words. Yeah. My kids are saying worse words.
Yeah, don't say those words. Though, Come on, we'll wash your mouth out with soap after the show's over.
My point is that that you don't have the same latitude, and so how do you avoid that? How do you get to that space first? That's what Dylan DeMello said. Right. You have to be there first. You can't have to try and get that real estate from them after the fact. So what do? You need to be quicker. And that's, again, like I said, Josh Morrissey talked about it. Dylan DeMello talked about it. It's not like they're sitting there hanging their head saying, we're the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever did suck. They're saying that we just didn't play our brand.
Simpsons reference.
Thank you. They're just saying that we didn't play our brand of hockey, and we need to get back to that. And that, to me, is what I expect them to do in tonight's game.
And I think, boys, we got to talk about the Scheifele, Velarde, Connor line's got to be better, right? The last couple games, they haven't had any points, right? And that's just something that, you expect a bad game here, a bad game there. I'm not saying that they were bad. I think they generated 4 or 5 shots on net, but still nothing.
But they were outclassed. I mean, they were outclassed by the opposition. I mean, maybe bad's not the right word, and I understand but when
they were definitely outclassed when they went up against the Barkov line.
That's what I'm saying. So that's the line that
players are.
Of course, but that's the line. That's the barometer you want to set for yourself. Is how do I achieve success against this exceptional line of hockey players that have been playing exceptionally well? And that's what, to your point, Connor and Scheifele and Velarde have to take to heart, have to find a way to respond to in this evening's game. It's okay, we were badly outclassed on Saturday as a line. We were badly outclassed on Saturday as a team. Now we need to step up so that doesn't happen on home ice in tonight's rematch.
Absolutely. And, Ehlers was kind of a one-man show on Saturday night. I think he ended up with 5 shots on net, Dave. That line was really good. So I'm not as worried about that line. And I'm not worried about Scheifele, Velarde, Connor. I'm just saying, this is the type of game especially when Florida's best players were their best players, except for Matthew Tkachuk didn't have to be fantastic. I had to double check. He only had 1 shot on net. He wasn't really noticeable Saturday night, but it's because the Scheifele, Velarde, Connor, the Barkov, Reinhart, Rodriguez line was so good on Saturday night. So obviously, you can point to every single line and say that, you want contributions, whether it's offensively or doing their responsible defensive play, right? But I think that, in this particular game, because it's the second game of back-to-back, it's going to be really interesting to see the adjustments that the Jets made. And the biggest thing for me is the way the Panthers slowed the Jets down in the neutral zone. Mm-hmm. And the Jets really had nothing going on in transition. They had no traffic. So I think that this game, you kind of got to go back to a little bit of more of an ugly style of game. Obviously, you still want players like Kyle Connor and Nick Ehlers, Gabe Velarde using their speed and everything like that. But I think there was a little bit too much.
But it's about when they use their speed. Sorry for interrupting, Ezzy, but it's about when they're using their speed. Because you're not, if the opposition is making it a grinder through the neutral zone, then you have to find a way to avoid that part, and then use your speed in the offensive zone. You need to use your speed in the breakouts, which to Dave's point is what was talked about a lot in the morning availability. The Jets, Scott O'Neill himself said the Jets couldn't get anything going starting in their own zone and trying to transition up the ice. Well, if you're slow out of your own zone, it's natural to expect that you'd be slow in the neutral zone and you'd be slow in the offensive zone when the Jets were able to get there. So it comes down to starting 200 feet away from the success of the offensive zone. That's where you need to start and generate your speed.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add, though, Drew, is, and one of the themes that came out of this morning's media availability was the idea that Florida, you got to remember, there's 2 teams playing, right?
Right.
They have a game plan as well. And one of the things that they talked about, like Scott O'Neill spoke about, was they didn't give the Jets any time, as he said. This team had this team is used to, I'm not saying play cat and mouse, because one of their hallmarks has been quickness, not holding onto the puck too long. But one of the things we've noticed with this Jets club is that they're generally speaking quick with their decision making.
Right.
The Panthers didn't even give them that split second to make that decision. They were on them immediately.
Right.
Neutral zone, D zone, O zone. So I think that's something that the Jets are going to have to do. And again, part of that will be playing quickly. But like I said, it's about making, to the point one of you guys just said, about making adjustments and being able to, react. And now you know what Florida threw at you. You got to be able to take it and now throw it back. And again, home ice advantage. We'll see how the lineup matches go in that regard. But for me, that'll be the biggest question mark right now in today's game.
Tuesday afternoon, we're live here at Cityplace. We're in the food court getting you set for this evening's Winnipeg Jets, Florida Panthers game. Drew Mandel, Ezra Ginsburg, Dave Minuk, thrilled to be here. So many of you joining us live here at Cityplace, live on location. We love doing these pregame shows here, getting you set for what is going to be a very entertaining contest, the 20th anniversary celebration of the Canada Life Center. I guess
Who scored the first goal?
For the Manitoba Moose?
Well, yes, of course.
Nolan Baumgartner. Don't worry, I follow Joe Pascucci on Twitter and Blue Sky and everything else, just like you do, my
All
friend.
right, fair enough.
We
I
both
just wanted
saw
to make
it.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I can top that one. Who was the only player that was in the Moose lineup in 2004 when the building opened and was in the lineup in 2011 for the Jets?
Like in the starting lineup of game one?
Starting lineup for the Moose in 2004, starting lineup for the Jets in 2011. There was only one player.
I can't believe there was one. That's
Kyle Wellwood.
Kyle Wellwood was playing for the Moose in 04 and the Jets.
He sure was.
Wow. Ezzy going deep into the bag of tricks coming up.
I believe it's because that was the lockout year.
04.
I think that was the reason. I think he had already been on Toronto, and then he was traded to Vancouver, and that's when the Moose and the Canucks had the AHL affiliation agreement.
As much as I believe in Ezzy, and I believe you wholeheartedly, I'd still like somebody to fact check that, for
came
me,
from
please.
K-Ballsy,
Oh,
Kyle
okay.
Balhari, who works for the Jets. So that's from him.
Okay, fair enough.
Little trivia things?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
gotcha.
In that case, we will we'll let that one go. Another good piece of trivia here on this Tuesday afternoon, the Illegal Curve pregame
Tim
show.
knew that one. Tim had the answer the whole time.
A special edition of the Illegal Curve pregame show. We do this every month here at Cityplace. Thrilled that so many of you are able to join us
We could
here.
have had a lot of Florida Panthers guests.
Well, the whole
Steve
team's just
Goldstein
strolling
just walked
by.
by.
You
Well,
know,
Panthers play-by-play team, Steve Goldstein, Goldie on Ice, as he's known,
And Randy Moeller.
and Randy Moeller just walked by.
Yeah.
So we got the Panthers contingent. Maybe we'll see a few Jets grabbing a bite to eat before the game tonight.
I'm surprised that they're not.
I don't think the Jets necessarily eat in food courts, but
only you, man. Only you and the good people listening on this Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, I would hope they might. You never know. I'm sure they do on occasion. Delve deep into the food court. The different options available here at Cityplace. Options galore. Back to the Jets and back to this afternoon or this evening's contest. I do think that the Jets. It was a bit of a humbling experience for the Jets on Saturday night. So now, to me, are there any lingering ramifications from being humbled by an opponent like that, especially when you don't have the opportunity to necessarily flush it against a brand new, maybe weaker opponent? You have to play that same excellent hockey team again. On one hand, you're certainly looking forward to that opportunity. You're cherishing the opportunity for redemption. But at the other hand, at the same time, psychologically, are you like, oh man, this team was really difficult. They were really hard to beat. They got our number, and will that continue? So that's a bit of the cat and mouse, a bit of the psychological battle that wages between each team. Right now, the Panthers, a team that would be playing with a great deal of confidence, how they played on Saturday, whereas the Winnipeg Jets have some question marks between the ears about how they respond and how they can come back against the Panthers. Well, Dave's poo-pooing me already.
No, as you can go.
I was going to say, Drew mentioned that the Jets were humbled. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
That was the worst loss of the season. I said earlier it might have been one of the worst losses. No. There's only 3 of them, boys. So we don't have exactly a lot of losses to talk about here. But I think that when I would throw in that Colorado game because I think they were lucky to win that one. But again, you're not going to apologize for Connor Hellebuck's goaltending. But I think when you're talking about the loss to the Leafs or the loss to the Lightning, this one was worse because like you said, Drew, it's how they react. And if the Jets lose this game, which I don't think anybody should be surprised, record aside, I don't think the Jets fans will be surprised if the Panthers beat the Jets because they're the defending Stanley Cup champs, division leaders right now. But it's how they
has
respond.
to look better.
And it's like Dave said, the process is what we've seen. The Jets have responded really well to a loss, except with the exception of the game against Florida, of course.
Right.
But that's a tough road trip. And we know, guys, that after tonight's game, what do the Jets have? 5 straight games on the road, 6 straight games on the road, starting with that back-to-back
6
against Pittsburgh and Nashville.
Yeah.
And you can say, look, Pittsburgh and Nashville have been awful this year. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. Both of those teams are not doing as well as they would like to be doing. But a back-to-back on the road against two extremely desperate teams is not going to be easy. Like, I'm not saying that the Jets are going to lose those games, because I actually would probably bet on the Jets winning both of those games. But sticking with tonight's game against the Panthers, it's do they get back to the type of hockey that we've been used to seeing, where the Jets are relatively mistake-free, they're playing within their structure, not making pardon me, I just said not making a lot of mistakes. It was obviously something they did in both the games against the Panthers and the Lightning, Dave. So
yeah.
I expect a much better response. You're going to see a heavy dose of the Lowry line against that Barkov line, because I think that line alone humbled the Jets.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think the reason why I'm not chicken littling this situation right now is because
chicken littling a little bit.
Maybe a little.
He might have a little bit of chicken after the show's over at one of the great restaurants here at the food court, but he's not chicken littling. He might have some little chicken.
It's got to be kosher though.
It's true. I only roll with the kosher, but no. Again, like I said, I just think that from what I'm seeing from this team, and again, I'm around them all the time when they're in town, of course, but when they are here, I just don't see any difference in the manner, and they're practicing the same way. So you couldn't tell me that they have 2 losses, but to be honest, at the same flip side, you couldn't have told me when they had 7 straight wins that this was a team that had won 7 straight. They weren't reading their press releases. I'm not suggesting that they're not paying attention to what's being said about them.
Right.
Let's not confuse those 2 statements.
But they weren't getting arrogant about it.
They weren't getting arrogant.
Yeah.
They really weren't. And like I said, there's so many examples from what this team has said. I mean, like, I saw someone was like, again, kind of the sky is falling situation with Mike McIntyre on Twitter the other day. And I saw Ezzy responding, but the truth is,
did that help or did that hurt the conversation?
I don't know. Well, just it drew my attention to it.
I think it's hilarious. The Jets fans are getting apoplectic about a couple of losses here, right? Like, just look at the record, and you should know that there's the Jets have built up a cushion.
That's fandom in a nutshell.
For sure. But
it's the way, like Drew said, it's the way they lost.
Yeah.
They were absolutely handed it. The Panthers, I should say, handed it to the Jets. They were humbled, and now they have to have a big response.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't anticipate that they won't respond in kind. And like I said, it'll be interesting what some part of the conversation in this morning's media availability with Josh Morrissey and Dylan DeMello. And like I said, you can listen to both those interviews on our YouTube channel. Was the fact that they were curious as to fans, whether the fans would have any sort of interesting chats, because of course, the overrated chants came at the Florida Panthers from the Florida Panthers fans. Now they were already up, I think, 3 or 4 goals at that point when they started chanting that way at the Jets.
What are you going to chant at the defending Stanley Cup champions?
Well, I thought the same, but
you don't deserve it. I mean, what, give it back. What do you? I mean, what are you going to chant?
That's why you're not one of the creative fans.
You're right.
We leave it to the creative fans, the ones who are the "Where is Rutger" or U.S. backup. They're the ones
guys,
who come up with
I'll go on the record right now as saying, if the Jets go up 2 or 3 goals on the Panthers tonight, you can guarantee you're going to hear an overrated chant coming back from the Jets directed at the Panthers.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to call that right now.
Okay. Well, that's going to be a big hill for the Jets to climb, to get up to that lead to begin with.
And that's what Josh Morrissey was saying. He said, like, look, let's get there. Let's worry about, if we're up 3-4 goals, then let's hopefully get to that point, and then we can.
You hear Josh Morrissey on the bench chanting overrated.
That would be unique. I think that would definitely be a unique experience. But the Winnipeg Jets fans and the players alike want a better result and a better approach to the game after being humbled on Saturday night in Sunrise, Florida. The rematch later tonight in the downtown arena, the 20th anniversary celebration. We're live here with the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, a special pregame edition coming to you live from the food court here at Cityplace. We'll take our only commercial break so we can look around and decide what we want for lunch after. The options are calling to us.
That big arch has our name on it.
Yeah, that big arch is, I'm surprised they haven't turned it into a big E for you rather than a big arch.
Delicious burger, it really is.
Ezra Ginsburg, Dave Manouk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. It is a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. Cityplace is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make Cityplace your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit Cityplace at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal, starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
Tuesday afternoon, welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, special pregame edition coming to you live from Cityplace. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you, talking about the Jets and the Panthers. Later tonight, 7 o'clock, puck drop in downtown Winnipeg. Of course, Cityplace, your place to be for lunch hour, before the game, after the game. Make sure you make Cityplace part of your game day routine. We're thrilled to be here today, broadcasting live, talking about the Jets and the Panthers. Couple pieces of information from around the NHL world coming out in the last hour. Alex Ovechkin, who's been absolutely on fire so far this year. 15 goals. You know, looked like it was going to be inevitable that he would break.
Don't tell me he's injured.
He is injured. Out week to week. Suffered a lower body injury yesterday. So he's out week to week for the Washington Capitals. So he'll be out of the lineup. His quest to defeat Wayne Gretzky in the NHL goals record. Well, I sort of feel the same way as you, Dave.
I'm like, no offense, I'd rather have Gretzky have the record.
Me too. I agree with you on that one.
What?
No, I like it better when it's Gretzky's record. And I do believe that.
Hold on a second. If there weren't two lockouts, he would already have the record.
Yeah,
it's not like this came out of nowhere, guys.
And if Gretzky had the level of competition that Alex Ovechkin had to go against.
No. Hold on. We're talking about two different things.
Well,
Wayne Gretzky is the greatest player of all time. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that. You don't want Ovechkin to break his record?
No, not really. No.
Really?
Yeah, I like it that it's Gretzky's record. You also factor in Gretzky's WHA goals and
No. But I'm not arguing against Gretzky as the greatest player of all time. I don't think that's
we
the
understand
debate.
that. We understand
but I'm just saying that
we're still not subscribing to what
you
you're
got to
selling.
give. Ovechkin, guys, is a top 10 player of all time. I mean, come on here. He's going to break the record eventually. If it's going to happen this year, it's going to happen next year.
But you're not asking that. You're not asking if we think he'll break it. We're asking if
we
want him to break it. And I'm saying I'm indifferent.
And I'm saying I'd rather Gretzky keep the record.
I'd rather Gretzky keep it, but
in any event.
Well, I think it's pretty amazing, like injury aside here. 15 goals in 18 games at the age of 38, 39 years old?
It's pretty impressive.
Like, I'm 42 years old. I have trouble getting out of the bed in the morning.
We know.
Yeah, but you're not in the NHL.
Yeah.
No,
and you're not quite in peak physical condition either.
I'm just saying it's impressive at 39.
He's had an incredible
to be
start
almost
to the
a
year.
goal per game.
No question about that. Agreed with you wholeheartedly on that. The other piece of information, JT Miller, he's taking a leave of absence from the Vancouver Canucks. It's been a bad year to start in Vancouver. JT Miller just announced that within the last 30 minutes or so, he's going to be taking an indefinite leave of absence from the Canucks. So another blow to the Canucks lineup as they've been struggling to start this 24-25 season. A player for the Winnipeg Jets who has not been in the lineup yet, but who everyone is sort of expected to see in the lineup almost for the last couple of years, is Ville Heinola. Yeah. It was announced earlier during just after morning skate that he's going to join the Manitoba Moose on a conditioning stint.
No,
it was announced yesterday, but it's a short-term conditioning stint. It's not going to be the full 2 weeks. He's only going to play 3 games.
2 games.
2 games, pardon me, for the Manitoba Moose, and then he's going to join the Winnipeg Jets for the game next Monday in Minnesota. Not to say he's going to play for the Jets in Minnesota, but his return to the Winnipeg Jets lineup, or as an option on the back end for the Winnipeg Jets, is coming nearer and nearer. And for Ville Heinola in particular, this has been almost 2 years in the making after he suffered the injury at the end of training camp last year. You know that he's desperate and ready to go, and hopefully all things will come through fine as he finishes the conditioning stint, and then he'll be an option on the back end for the Winnipeg Jets on that left side that's been occupied by Logan Stanley and by Hayden Fleury so far this year, Dave.
Yeah, and when we spoke to Scott Arniel yesterday after morning media or after the skate, and I had asked him, I said, how do you like Ville Heinola's progress? Because we know that that this has been almost 2 months since he found out that there was an infection in the ankle, then he needed surgery, then he was obviously not skating, then he was skating in a yellow non-contact earlier in November, and now of course he's been taking some contact. And, I asked Scott Arniel about it yesterday following the skate, and he just said, well, this is what he said specifically. We finally got him into heavy contact. We got a couple on the road not that we practiced a whole lot, but today I thought was a really good one. He got to get into it, some really good 5-on-5 stuff. We got a decision to make with him. We'll talk to him and see how we move forward here. We want to get him in some games sooner than later. We just got to find out what the best course of it is. If the docs are 100% ready for us to move forward with him into games and to talk about the best scenario. So when he said that, I thought, okay, they're going to just clear him. And if he's clear, they're going to send him to the Moose on a conditioning assignment. And yes, to be clear, he has to agree to be going on that conditioning assignment.
That's a no-brainer.
But that's a no-brainer. So he goes on the conditioning assignment, which can't be longer than 2 weeks. And unlike last year, boys, when he was getting sent down and he could be down there for the whole year, which is what he did, here he knew that it was going to be fine out. Now, Scott Arniel, as Drew just said, clarified, it's going to be for 2 games. Thursday morning, they play a 10:30 game. It's a school day game against the Chicago Wolves, who aren't very good. And Scott Arniel said, and I said today he said, I told Mark Morrison, to play him for 30 minutes. So you know that he's going to play in all situations on Thursday. Then they play an afternoon game against those same Wolves. By the way, speaking of which, we'll probably have tickets in the illegal curve zone. So if you want to go to that game, you can come up to me here and ask for that, or if not, you can just
Which game?
send me an email.
The Thursday game?
We have both. But anyway,
okay. If you want tickets to Thursday's game or Saturday's Moose game, come up here at Cityplace. All those who are within earshot after the show, come up and talk to Dave, and Dave will be able to hopefully hook some of you up with tickets for the Moose games that are coming up this week. There you go. That's how generous we are. That's how generous Dave is. The ticket making machine left on, and Dave Manouk going to hand them out like an early Santa Claus on this Tuesday afternoon.
There you go.
And boys, just going back to Ville Heinola, you would think with the nature of the injury, right, the ankle surgery, you would think that he's probably going to spend a couple weeks with the Manitoba Moose, right?
No, he's going to be. We just said it. He's there for the next 2 games,
and he's joining the
Jets on They play in Minnesota on Monday. And whether or not he's
so that was mentioned as the plan, not that would just be the minimum.
No,
that's the plan.
Okay,
yeah. On Monday he will be one of on the Winnipeg Jets roster on Monday.
Well, he's still on the roster, of course, because
you know what I mean.
Yeah, but
he'll be an option for the Winnipeg Jets on Monday.
So that tells me, guys, that they're preparing to get him into the lineup.
That's what Scott. So that's what I was just going to add on is that literally Scott Arniel said. And again, you can go and listen to it. I didn't get a chance to clip it, which I would have, but again, I was running to get here.
You can do it after.
I will. Trust me, I'll be doing it after. But the point I'm making is that when Scott Arniel said, listen, he said, I'm the biggest Ville fan. I want to see what he can do. I want him in the lineup. So my guess would be whether he plays that.
Surprising to hear that, right? Because you can disagree with me, but when I originally saw that, obviously he's been skating with the Jets, Dave, for a while now.
Yeah.
It's not like he just resumed skating 3 days ago or something like that. but you would think that they would want him in more game action. But
How
he's
many
literally
games do you need at the AHL level
No,
to
no,
get
no.
up to speed, though?
Well, no,
I mean,
but just games period.
Games period. Though.
What I mean is that the plan isn't to have him as the 7th defenseman. The plan is to play him.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
No, and
which is by the way, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear this. I just didn't know that was the case. I was expecting him to play, half a dozen games or however many games you'd play in 2 weeks. Probably not half a dozen, but 4 or 5 or whatever, something like that. But this is good news because, as Drew mentioned, I mean, Ville Heinola would have been in the starting lineup for the 23-24 season if not for the injury. And now with the injury to Logan Stanley, because he's at least a week away, right, Dave? Like
he's going on the road trip as well. He was not an option, but I think they said that he's going to travel on the road trip.
This?
Logan Stanley.
Yeah, Logan Stanley. So Logan Stanley is off. I asked about him yesterday as well, and he basically said that he's going to be off the ice for 4 or 5 more days.
Yeah,
but he will be on the road trip.
So that's a week, right? Like, so that if you add things up, then those guys are probably like. What I'm saying is, it's unclear if Logan Stanley would be an option when Ville Heinola will be an option.
Sure.
And based on what Arniel has said, Heinola is going to be the guy who goes in for. I mean, in theory, Hayden Fleury.
Yeah,
right?
no, and look, I think what's going to happen.
Not in theory. That is who he will replace Hayden Fleury on the third pair.
Barring some other injury.
Yeah. Right, but ultimately, the way you have to look at it is that Ville Heinola is going to get his chance, whether it is against the Minnesota Wild or whether it's against one of the teams on the West Coast, whether it's LA or Vegas. Well, I guess Vegas isn't West Coast.
It's a hard road trip coming up, boys.
It's a weird one, right? You go Nashville, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, LA. Vegas,
Dallas.
Yeah,
I think Dallas is on December 1st.
Last one,
right?
on December 1st. So they've got a very unusual one. But the fact of the matter is that Ville Heinola is not getting recalled to be the 7th or 8th defenseman.
Right.
The other thing
he's got a runway to prove himself for probably almost one of the first times in his career.
Right. I would agree with that. Now, the only other thing the Jets are going to have to decide, of course, is that when Logan Stanley is ready to come off IR, then they'll have to make a move with respect to waivers. But that, again, will be put off until he's taken off.
Well, I mean, I think that decision, the writing is clearly on the wall for Dylan Coghlan on that one, in that he hasn't even cracked the lineup once this year.
For
he's
sure.
likely to be the person. But, again, that's something we can discuss at a later date time. But what I'm intrigued by is the comment I just made to you, Dave, is that it sounds like, Ville Heinola, every time, we've seen him in a Jets uniform or playing for the Winnipeg Jets, it's been intermittent. There were games where he looked okay, back when Maurice was still the head coach. And then Maurice would yank him out of the lineup, and then he'd go back down to the Moose, or he'd go here, or he was injured for lengthy periods of time. It sounds, if you take Scott Arniel at face value and at what he said, he wants to give, Ville Heinola a leash. He wants to give him that opportunity to really assert himself and establish himself as an NHLer, and with the confidence that comes with that. Which I think is, to me, a really intriguing sort of subplot to watch over the next couple of weeks for the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, and at this point, boys, he's 23 years old, right? Like, it's time to find out what you have with Ville Heinola at the NHL level. I agree with what Drew said earlier. I mean, it's not that Heinola needed, 5 or 6 games because, he needs to, get his game back or anything like that. I just thought that because of the nature of the injury, I thought he might spend a little bit more time on that conditioning assignment, but we need to see him play 30 games, 40 games in a row, right? Like, we need to see him, obviously, barring any injury, which, hope that doesn't happen. But we need to see him have an extended look at the NHL, playing with a veteran like Colin Miller on the third pair. Maybe he plays in a variety of situations. He's obviously not going to most likely get any special teams time.
He might get some special time with Scott Arniel.
Well, you might get some special time with Scott Arniel. But this is all great news because Ville Heinola has had some bad luck with the injuries the last couple of years, so it's nice that there appears to be a plan for him to play in the NHL and not be the 7th defenseman, not start off with too many games in the American Hockey League. So I for one am very excited to see what he can do, especially later on in this road trip against some really good teams.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for him finally after all the setbacks that he's experienced as of late. But in the here and now, we're of course focused on this evening's game between the Winnipeg Jets and the Florida Panthers. We're live here, the Illegal Curve pregame show, special edition of this broadcast coming to you live from Cityplace. We have all the various great food options available. There's also, of course, our friends at Boston Pizza and our friends at Shark Club. There's an A&W on the main floor as well. So whatever you
could
have
go for a team protein burger.
You can go for, Ezzy, I have faith in your abilities to try one burger or one item from every item here in the food court and downstairs at Cityplace. That's a
It'll
challenge.
be known as the Ginsburg cycle.
That's right, exactly. It'll be, and then we'll see where we.
And then it'll be in the St. Boniface emergency room after that.
Yes, that's the natural progression after the Ginsburg cycle. But it is certainly a good opportunity galore for the Winnipeg Jets and for Ezzy to get his feet on this Tuesday afternoon. I go back. Paul Maurice. I was just texting with Ken Weeb. Because Ken was at
Someone's doing well.
Ken was at the morning availability.
Personal texting relationship with Ken Weeb, no big deal.
It's true, no big deal. Kenny responds to my texts every now and then, especially the Vikings texts more than the Jets related texts, but that's separate. He was there with Paul Maurice, who of course had the media availability, and Maurice was complimentary towards the Winnipeg Jets, as you would expect.
Yeah.
And I'm paraphrasing here, but Maurice clarified his comments after the Stanley Cup, saying he wants the Jets to do well, but he wants them to do well after Maurice is done and after the Panthers are done, they're winning. So he did sort of add an addendum to those comments.
So clarify
after
that to me. If you're the Florida Panthers fans, so Maurice retires in 2 years. Does your team suddenly stop wanting to win?
I think it's just saying in the peaks and valleys and then the cycle of life. That's what he was saying about
Paul
that.
Maurice walks by us here.
We can ask Paul directly.
We'll pull him in and we'll bring him into the conversation.
He was
So
saying
for now, no one Kev are walking by, which is just as good as Paul Maurice.
He was saying that he wants people in Winnipeg to experience what he got to experience last year in South Florida, which I'm sure everybody that's within earshot and listening to us here at Cityplace, and those of you who are joining us online, of course, also want to experience the same thing, where the Jets would eventually be able to lift Lord Stanley's Cup and all that.
I don't think it takes any, it's nothing
earth-shattering.
Earth-shattering. I mean, the fact is that he was feeling euphoric. He has a lot of affinity for this city.
Yes.
And, he made a comment. And, it's funny how, so look, the tweet blew up when I saw it. I was like, holy, I can't believe he just said that. That's fantastic.
Thanks for not swearing there. I saw that it was about on its way out.
I was going blue, but then I'm like, you know what? I'll save it. We're in public.
Yeah.
We're always in public. But anyways, the fact of the matter is that he feels, look, his daughter still lives here. He still has a lot of connection. His son, of course, had a very prestigious job covering junior hockey for a little site called illegalcurve.com.
Yeah, it's amazing he overcame that hiccup in his career.
And then went on to become a 3-time ECHL champion.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is that these guys there are a lot of connect. His kids grew up here, is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And there was a lot of connection to this city and this province. So I'm not surprised when I hear him say positive things about Winnipeg.
No, it was awesome, guys. Come on, nobody was expecting that right after this was minutes after the Panthers won the Stanley Cup, and I honestly don't think that people are going to stop bringing this up for a very, very long time. It might be something
until the Winnipeg Jets win the Stanley Cup themselves.
I would say so, and then it's obviously going to be brought up a lot. But I think, guys, just going back to bringing it back to Saturday's game against the Panthers and the rematch tonight, it honestly seemed to me like Paul Maurice had a nice little book on the Winnipeg Jets, and he knew exactly what the Jets were going to bring. And that's why I'm not saying that
familiarity breeds contempt. It also breeds knowledge.
Absolutely. And I think that's why it goes back to why I think tonight's game is going to be so fascinating. Is it's going to, like we talked about, you're going to get the matchup benefit, right, of last change, but it's also going to be fascinating to see how the Jets respond to that type of loss, because that game, let's be honest, it was embarrassing. When you talk about fueled by embarrassment, Dave, the Jets Avalanche series, this is another example of, if you're fueled by embarrassment by the Avalanche, you should be fueled by embarrassment by the Florida Panthers. And I do think the Jets are going to have a great response. I don't think we're going to see the similar type of game with the giveaways and, kind of the passive back checking that we saw. I think it's going to be a much sharper game. And obviously, I'm not going to make any predictions because we all know.
You know what? It's funny. You talk about that, and you look back, just look at the Florida Panthers themselves. What happened? The first game, they got embarrassed by the New Jersey Devils. They lost handily last week.
Yeah.
The second game, the rematch against the Devils, what happened again? They got embarrassed again. So just because I agree with you, the Jets obviously want to have
can repeat itself.
In this case, we talked about it on Saturday, the games between the Jets and the Washington Capitals from a dozen years ago, where the Jets were embarrassed 2 straight games. So just because you want to find a better result and find a better response doesn't, that the proverbial talk is cheap.
Yeah.
So the Winnipeg Jets know that they have to find a way to raise their level of their game.
Exactly.
Because the Panthers themselves, they played at this level, but they know that they might even have to raise it even higher to continue to do against the Jets. The question is, can the Jets do something that mitigates as the guys walk through the mall here? What's going to happen tonight? You guys want to give us any preview or anything? Sorry, the Panthers guys are walking through here at Cityplace.
I don't think they like that, Drew.
I don't think they like that either, but then they shouldn't
Hold
wear
on,
their
they're coming back here. No. Guys.
But, that's the point of the game tonight, is that everyone's going to have to raise their level up a little bit. The Jets are going to have to raise it to try and be where Florida was on Saturday, and the Panthers are going to want to raise it to even higher where they were on Saturday in response.
Well, again, like you just said, Drew, the Panthers have won one game of the last 3.
Right.
So to their mind, that they want to keep pushing, they want to keep moving forward. So yeah, I mean, look, I don't expect that the Panthers are just going to hand the Jets the win tonight. The Jets are going to have to earn it.
Yes.
And you want the Jets to have to earn it, because again, if the Jets earn a win tonight, Ezzy, it's not because it was easy. It's not because the Panthers stunk. It's because they executed their game plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you want to see. You want to see a team, again, like I said, you don't panic if the result isn't the way you want it. The only reason you get upset is if the Jets continue to get away from the style of play that has made them so successful this year. That, to me, is the only thing that can mar this team. But I think that, one of the guys talked about, I don't remember which one specifically, I think it was, Morrissey, just the idea of defending the house. I mean, they're playing one game out of, as he said, 10 this stretch.
Right.
They played 3 on the road, 1 here, and then they go on the road for 6 more.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they're not home for a lot. They want to give the fans, a good game tonight. And I just feel like they're going to be in this game, and they're going to play with the crispness and the attention to detail.
Thank you. Hang on. Do I have to take a shot? It's just
no.
coffee, but I'll take a shot anyways.
Just a quarter. I'll pay you a quarter royalty. But
okay,
if you play that way, then you're going to have at least. Again, if you win, lose, or I see Drew.
Thank you.
You're still going to have a good result regardless of the outcome.
Well, and similar to the Jets, when we talk about, and this was talked about a lot, obviously, when the Jets were going through their 15-1 start, which seems like so long ago, even though the Jets are 15-3. But like
the sky is falling.
So
the sky is falling.
No, but you know what? Like, so much of the talk, right, Drew, was that the Jets are this amazing 4-line team, which they are. And if you're able to shut down Scheifele, Connor, Velarde, well, then you have to deal with Ehlers, Perfetti, and Nemesnikov, or you have to deal with the Lowry, Niederreiter, Appleton line, which Dave has documented has. I don't know if they've put up the most points for a third line or what we call a third line, but these guys aren't just checkers. They're not just physical players. These guys can put the puck in the net. When you're talking about that line of Barkov, Reinhart, Rodriguez, well, if you shut those guys down, who do you get? You get Matthew Tkachuk, you get Carter Verhaeghe, and you get Sam Bennett. And then that third line of Anton Lundell, Jesper Boquist, and Isto Listerainen, that's a pretty good third line as well, right? So, like, Drew's right when he says the Jets need to elevate their game, like they did against the Dallas Stars. So we've seen them elevate their game against the best teams in the league. We'll see if they can do it tonight. We know it's possible. That's not the question. It's are they able to put this one aside, make the necessary adjustments, and play a little bit more of a simplified, dirty game. Get traffic in front of, if it's Sergei Bobrovsky, right?
It is.
Get some dirty goals. Like, that's what you're going to have to do. If you don't have that transition offense going, well, then put some pucks on net, bang away at it, and get some goals similar to the way the Florida Panthers did. Not all the Florida Panthers goals were beautiful. Like, you had the first goal of the game, which was Mackie Samoskevich. Like, that went off of his chest.
He just got back in the lineup.
The goal,
game, right?
the Dmitry Kulikov goal, that went off of his knee or his stomach, right? Like, so it's not like the Panthers beat the Jets with these beautiful goals.
It tells you that they were in position in the dirty areas to have good bounces come their way.
Which is why Dylan DeMello said you can't allow them to have access to that easily.
You have to be there before them.
First of all, exactly. You have to be there in advance of them, so they don't have that opportunity to gain real estate on you. And so we'll see. And that's going to be the key to this Jets club. And look, they had the day off yesterday. It wasn't a particularly taxing or long practice yesterday, and they were only on the ice, I think, for about 35, 40 minutes today. So they should have their legs. They should be rested. They should be ready to go. And there should be no lack of getting up for this game based on, like I said, they're not getting too far ahead of themselves, but they still have their pride. They still know, like, don't think that they didn't hear those overrated chants. Don't think they don't still have the people going, well, maybe they're frauds. So they're going to be cognizant of all of those things.
There's Paul.
When they get back.
Paul, how's it going?
Nice to see you, Paul.
You can come talk anytime you want.
Yeah. There you go. Coach Maurice walking through the mall here at Cityplace. Good timing altogether. That's why we love doing the show here right now as the players and the coaching staff.
We should have brought him up. Jimmy, where's the extra microphone? We needed the extra mic.
Paul looked hungry. Let's get Paul some pizza or something here.
Excellent timing. That's why we love
Paul,
doing
maybe,
the show.
Maybe you'd like to share your game plan with you.
I think the game plan's pretty well known. We know the game plan. It's put it in deep, drive them through the boards, win the puck battles, and beat up your opponent. That's what they're so good at doing. That's what they've been successful at doing for the last year plus.
Would we call it a Paul Maurice flyby?
Well, that,
Yeah, it was.
You don't want to see any of those flybys from the Jets players though later on tonight. That's the problem. They need to get into those. They need to be shoulder to shoulder and getting the leverage and getting body position, because it's so much of that. Look, the Panthers don't have a lot of what I describe as style points to their game. It's not like it's Harlem Globetrotter-esque hockey out there. They're just better at executing their style than a lot of other teams are at defending it. So that's exactly what the Winnipeg Jets have to counteract. That's what the Winnipeg Jets need to worry about tonight, is making sure that that's not an issue for tonight's game, that they know that they don't put themselves in the position where the Panthers can have that advantage.
Absolutely. And that's what, again, these are cliches, guys, and we always, try to avoid speaking in cliches, but these are the types of games. And I wouldn't say, I would go as far as to say, this is going to have a playoff feel or anything like that. We're way too early in the season, but it's winning puck battles. It's winning those kind of one-on-one situations right in front of the net, making sure you have your man, taking care of your man. Like, I forget who said it. It might've been Nick Ehlers, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. He was saying last game that it seemed like every time we had the puck, there were two Panthers on us, right?
Exactly.
And that's what the Jets like to do.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's like one of those situations where the Jets know similar. I think there's similarities to the Jets matching up against the Colorado Avalanche. That is a team that has the high-end skill. So I'm not saying that stylistically the Avalanche and Panthers are the same. What I'm saying is sometimes when you go up against an opponent who's completely not allowing you to do what you do best, it's are you able to adapt?
Well,
And
I would argue that the Panthers are a little bit of a throwback with their style. Not
a lot of teams play the way the Panthers play.
That's right. A lot of teams nowadays that are successful, it's more of the speed, the transition, the quick strike offense. Whereas the Panthers, again, they certainly have those capabilities, but they really want to grind you down low.
Yes.
They want to put the puck in deep, and they want to say, we're going to go win that puck battle. We're going to go win that board battle, and then we're going to take position in front of your goalie, and that's how we're going to get our opportunities.
And it doesn't mean that the Jets have to score all of their goals in the same way that the Panthers do, but they have to find a way, again, if they're not getting some of those looks in transition, because look, the Panthers are a complete team. We've already gone over that with the forward lines and the defense. They're just a good defensive team. Like, I go back to Alex Barkov, right? Like, to me, you have to know where Alex Barkov is at all times. Like, his impact on the game
at both ends of the ice.
At both ends of the ice is the same thing as Nathan McKinnon, right? Obviously, he doesn't have the offensive upside that McKinnon does, aside from McDavid or Kucherov.
But he's got the better defensive abilities.
Right. So anytime he's on the ice, and I think we all expect the Lowry line to get that assignment tonight. Yeah. So hopefully that's going to be part of it, shutting down that line, because that line had way too many good looks last game. But it's like Drew said, you have to find ways to win, and that's been a staple of this Jets team all year long, including the going 15 of 16 to set the NHL record, is that they were able to find different ways to win. If the Scheifele line wasn't going, then the third line would contribute, or the fourth line would contribute, or you'd get some offense from the defense, stuff like that. The other thing is you got to get back to having some success on the power play. The power play has gone a little bit quiet these last few games, so that's another key. It goes without saying. But that has been a big part, and that was something that has been talked about, throughout the NHL quite a bit, because so many teams are even 5-on-5. That puts even more onus on a power play to be successful. And obviously, the Jets, last time I checked, are still first in the league in the power play.
Well, 2 straight games where they haven't had a power play goal, which is not something you've been able to say about them so far this year, Dave.
No, that's absolutely the case, and Nancy's right. And that's a pretty well, good way of summing it all up. Is it just like I said, we're going to see. I'm not going to make any grandiose statements because I don't think it matters. I really don't.
Make it, Dave. Go grandiose.
No, conversation throughout the course of this hour is just that I just think that you have a team that is focused, and like I said, they'll I expect them to rebound today. So that would be my sort of expectation from tonight's game.
Well, we'll talk about it all later on tonight on the Illegal Curve post-game show. That, of course, will take place on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms. That's going to happen after tonight's Jets and Panthers contest, right around 9:40, 9:45. Be sure to join YouTube channel for the post-game show. If you're within earshot of us here at Cityplace and you want to find out how do I get more of a legal curve, well, you come to this big poster that's right behind us. You scan the QR code that's over here. That will give you all the information you need.
Gun shows right here.
Yeah, as he's showing off the biceps there.
I work out.
You work out indeed.
I work out at Tim Hortons, McDonald's, Lamar Donair, Soft Pizza.
Everything here at Cityplace. That's where you're doing your workouts. That's perfect. That's been a lot of fun this afternoon here at Cityplace for the Jets and the Panthers, the pregame show. Big thanks to our friends at Cityplace for having us down here. We'll be doing it again in December. We do it once a month. The date's on the big poster behind us, and of course on all of our social media platforms, so you can stay tuned to that. Be sure to subscribe to the show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. That way you won't miss a minute of anything illegal curve related. Like I said, after tonight's game between the Jets and the Panthers, we'll be back for the illegal curve post-game show. Thanks to all of you for joining us here at Cityplace. Thanks for
to
all
producer
of you.
Timmy.
I was getting to Timmy. Thanks to everyone who was joining us. I'm a professional. You should know. You don't need to interrupt me. I've been doing this for long enough. Thanks to everyone joining us online. Thanks to producer Tim
Giving me
as
goosebumps.
well.
Back to the TSN 1290 days.
For
Love it, Timmy.
Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Thanks, everyone. This has been the Illegal Curve pregame show live on location from Cityplace.